Everyone, let's raise our glasses to the family member who contributes absolutely nothing to this household. The clinking of crystal wine glasses echoed around the grand dining hall, accompanied by cruel chuckles and smirks aimed directly at me. The weight of their gazes pressed against my skin, suffocating me with each second that passed. I sat motionless at the lavishly decorated dinner table, my heart hammering in my chest. Every single person in the room, my parents, my cousins, my aunts and uncles, looked at me as if I were a joke, an embarrassment. "Oh, Sophia, don't look so shocked," my cousin Amelia giggled, her eyes twinkling with fake innocence. "You've been living under this roof for years without a real job, without a real future. You should at least be grateful we let you sit with us." The heat of humiliation burned up my throat, but I clenched my fists under the table, forcing my face to remain expressionless. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. My mother, the woman who was supposed to protect me, sighed dramatically and shook her head. "We tried so hard with you, Sophia, but it's clear now. You were born to be a burden, a liability." A wave of laughter followed her words, my father chuckling as he swirled his wine. He didn't even look at me. No one did. Not with an ounce of respect, anyway. But they had no idea. No idea that I had built something they could only dream of. No idea that I had a secret so powerful, their laughter would turn into desperation. No idea that the man about to walk into this room would make them beg for mercy. I took a deep breath, swallowing the storm of emotions brewing inside me. They thought I was weak. They thought I had nothing. They were about to find out just how wrong they were. I wasn't always the family disgrace. There was a time when I was just Sophia, the daughter who tried so hard to make her parents proud, the girl who worked tirelessly to be accepted by her relatives. But in this family, love was conditional, and I had failed to meet their conditions. It all started when I refused to become the perfect puppet they had planned for me to be. Growing up in a powerful, wealthy family, expectations were set in stone. The women in our family were groomed to marry into even richer families, to strengthen alliances, to maintain status. Love, choice, ambition? Those things were for fools. At 21, my parents had arranged a marriage for me with the son of one of their wealthy business partners. A man twice my age, controlling, ruthless. A man I could never love. I refused. And that was the day my real suffering began. Ungrateful brats. My father's voice had thundered through the house that night, his face red with rage. "Do you know how many women would kill for this opportunity?" "I don't care," I had screamed back, tears burning my eyes. "I want a life of my own, not one you sell to the highest bidder." From that moment on, I became an outcast in my own home. My parents withdrew every form of support, cutting off my access to money, refusing to acknowledge me in conversations. I was still living under their roof, but I was invisible. Worse, my relatives followed suit. My aunts whispered behind my back, my cousins made snide remarks at every gathering, and my mother treated me like a disappointment she regretted giving birth to. And tonight, they were making a spectacle out of me. "It's honestly pathetic," my uncle sighed dramatically, leaning back in his chair. "You're 25 now, Sophia, and you've done what exactly? No career, no husband, no future. Tell me, dear, do you have any purpose at all?" More laughter. More clinking of glasses. I felt my nails dig into my palm. They had no idea. No idea that I had spent the last 4 years building my own life in secret. No idea that I had walked away from their wealth and earned my own. No idea that while they saw me as a failure, I had already won. I lifted my head, my lips curling into a slow, dangerous smile. "You want to know if I have a purpose?" I asked, my voice smooth as silk. The room fell into a tense silence, my family caught off guard by the sudden confidence in my tone. My father narrowed his eyes. "And what exactly could that be?" I took a deliberate sip of my wine, setting the glass down with a soft clink. "I suppose you'll find out soon enough," I murmured. And just then, the doors to the dining hall swung open. A gasp rippled through the room as he stepped in. Tall, commanding, powerful. And the richest man in the entire city, my billionaire boyfriend, the man I had kept secret from them all this time, was finally here. His piercing gaze swept across the room, lingering on my stunned family members before locking onto me. And then, he smiled. It was time for them to feel powerless. Time for them to realize they had underestimated me. And most of all, it was time for them to beg for mercy. The silence in the grand dining hall was deafening. Every pair of eyes fixated on the tall, commanding man who had just stepped in, Nathaniel Carter. The name alone was enough to strike awe into anyone who understood wealth and power. CEO of Carter Enterprises, a multi-billion-dollar empire. A man so influential that a single phone call from him could make or break entire industries. And here he was, standing at the doorway of my family's estate, his gaze locked onto me with a sense of possession, admiration, and quiet authority. I stood up from my seat, brushing my hands along my dress, savoring the way my mother's face turned pale, my father stiffened, and my cousins exchanged panicked glances. Nathaniel took slow, deliberate steps toward me, his presence sucking the air out of the room. Then, without breaking eye contact, he reached for my hand, gently, reverently, as if I was the most precious thing in the world. "Sorry I'm late, sweetheart," he murmured, his deep, velvety voice making the room shudder with tension. Sweetheart. They all heard it. I tilted my head, letting my lips curl into a knowing smile. You're right on time. That's when the chaos started. My uncle, the same one who had laughed the loudest just moments ago, nearly choked on his wine. My cousin Amelia, who had spent the last hour ridiculing me, dropped her fork with a loud clatter. And my mother? She looked like she had seen a ghost. My father was the first to recover, but barely. His throat bobbed as he cleared it, forcing a stiff smile. "Nathaniel Carter, what a surprise," he said, his voice betraying his discomfort. Nathaniel didn't even acknowledge him. His piercing blue eyes were still on me, his thumb lightly grazing the back of my hand, a silent reassurance. It was deliberate, a display of power, a reminder that I wasn't the burden they had claimed me to be. I was the woman this billionaire had chosen, and that scared them more than anything. My mother finally found her voice, though it trembled. "Sophia, what is going on?" she asked, forcing a smile. I took a slow, deep breath and met her gaze. "What's going on," I repeated, "is that you all made a spectacle of me tonight, and now you're realizing your mistake." The confidence in my tone sent a visible shudder through my family. They were no longer looking at me like a disgrace. They were looking at me like a threat. My mother was quick to change her approach. "Sophia, sweetheart, you should have told us," she gushed, her voice suddenly sickeningly sweet. "Nathaniel Carter. Oh, darling, we had no idea you were seeing such a remarkable man." I didn't miss the way she emphasized remarkable. Her mind was already calculating, trying to salvage her position. Too late. Nathaniel finally turned his gaze toward my parents, his expression unreadable. "I don't believe we've met properly," he said, his voice smooth but chilling. "Mr. and Mrs. Langford, is it?" My father swallowed hard. "Why, yes. That's right." Nathaniel nodded, his grip on my hand tightening slightly. "You raised an incredible woman." A single, seemingly harmless sentence. But the weight behind it? Undeniable. Because what he was really saying was, you don't deserve her. And they knew it. The tension in the room was unbearable now. Just minutes ago, they had been laughing at me, mocking my existence. Now they were looking at me as if I held their future in my hands. Because I did. "Oh, Sophia, we've always believed in you," my aunt suddenly chimed in, forcing a nervous laugh. "We just wanted to see you push yourself harder, you know?" My cousin Amelia, the same one who had mocked me all night, nodded eagerly. "That's right. We only wanted what was best for you." Lies. Desperate, pathetic lies. I looked at them, one by one, and let the silence stretch just long enough to make them sweat. Then, with a voice like steel, I spoke. "I remember everything you said about me tonight. Every word." Panic. They knew I wasn't going to let this go. Nathaniel's thumb brushed over my knuckles again, reminding me he was here, that he had my back. I tilted my head slightly and let the moment settle. Then, with a slow smile, I whispered, "Enjoy your dinner. I won't be here much longer." And just like that, I had all the power. The weight of my words settled over the grand dining hall like a thick fog. They all knew what I meant. I was done. Done with their cruelty, their manipulation, their gaslighting. Done being the worthless disappointment they had mocked for years. Nathaniel remained by my side, his grip warm and firm around my fingers. He didn't need to say a word, his presence alone was a statement. For years, they had belittled me. But now, I was untouchable. Amelia, who once thrived on tearing me down, gave me a strained smile. "Sophia, you're joking, right? You wouldn't just leave. I mean, we're family." "Family. What a joke." I let out a soft, humorless laugh. "Family?" I echoed. "Since when?" The room stilled. I saw it, the flicker of guilt flashing in my mother's eyes before she quickly masked it with another fake smile. "Oh, honey," she cooed, her tone so syrupy sweet it was disgusting. "We may have been harsh, but we've always wanted the best for you." Nathaniel scoffed beside me, his jaw tightening. Funny way of showing it. The sharpness of his words made my mother flinch. My father, ever the arrogant man, tried to regain control. "Now, Nathaniel," he said smoothly, swirling his wine as if he were unbothered. "You must understand, we were only guiding Sophia. She never had much direction, and—" "Stop," Nathaniel cut in, his tone ice cold. My father shut up immediately. Nathaniel's voice was smooth, but deadly. "I know exactly what this is," he continued, leveling them all with a sharp, piercing gaze. "You had no problem treating Sophia like dirt when you thought she had nothing. And now, suddenly, you're all playing the role of concerned family." No one spoke, because he was right. The entire dynamic of the room had shifted. Moments ago, I was the worthless burden. Now I was someone they desperately wanted to keep close. But it was too late. I squared my shoulders, my voice calm and unwavering. "Do you think I forgot everything you said about me tonight? Every insult, every time you mocked me?" Amelia opened her mouth to protest, but I cut her off. "No, Amelia." "I heard it all. Every word." She paled. "And the best part?" I continued, smiling coldly. "You thought I would take it. That I had no choice but to sit here and endure it." Nathaniel's grip on my hand tightened. I felt his quiet support radiating beside me. "But I do have a choice." I let the words hang in the air. "And I choose to leave." My mother gasped. "Sophia, no. You can't. Watch me." The real begging started the moment I turned toward the door. "Sophia, wait." My father pushed his chair back, his arrogance crumbling. Nathaniel turned slightly, his posture shifting to something dangerous. Protective. Unmovable. "I think she made herself clear," he said smoothly, eyes flashing with a silent warning. My mother scrambled out of her seat, her voice now pleading. "Sweetheart, we were just trying to push you. You know how families are." I stopped in my tracks, then slowly turned. "Families?" I whispered. "Families protect each other. Families support each other. You humiliated me in front of everyone. And now that I have something you want, you suddenly care?" My father's jaw clenched, but my mother was losing control. "We didn't mean it," she cried. "You're still our daughter." I laughed. "Now I am." Nathaniel exhaled sharply, shaking his head in disgust. Unbelievable. My father, realizing that sweet words wouldn't work, shifted tactics. His face hardened, his voice dropping into the same condescending tone he always used with me. "You think this man is going to keep you around forever, Sophia?" he sneered. "You have no career, no power. Once he gets bored, you'll come crawling back to us. And by then, it will be too late." Silence. The air turned to ice. Nathaniel let out a slow, dangerous chuckle. "You really don't get it, do you?" My father stiffened. Nathaniel stepped forward, his presence commanding the entire room. You still think she needs you? That she has no value outside of what you allow her to have? His gaze darkened. Let me make something clear. Sophia doesn't need you. She never did. The finality in his voice shattered something in my parents. Amelia looked like she was going to be sick. My uncle, the same one who had mocked me the loudest, was suddenly pale as a ghost. And my mother? She was crying. For herself. Not for me. I knew, in that moment, they weren't sad because they had lost me. They were sad because they had lost what they thought they could gain from me.
And that
made my decision even easier. I turned toward Nathaniel, meeting his gaze with a quiet smile. Let's go. Without looking back, I took his hand, and we walked out of that house together. No more chains. No more begging for their approval. No more feeling like I wasn't enough. I was free. And for the first time in my life, I had won. The moment Nathaniel and I walked out of that house, I felt something I had never felt before. Complete freedom.
But my family?
They weren't going to let me go that easily. By the time we reached the sleek black Rolls-Royce parked outside, my phone exploded with notifications. Mom, 8 missed calls. Dad, 4 missed calls, 2 voicemails. Amelia, 3 new messages. I ignored them all. Nathaniel opened the car door for me, his expression calm but watchful. He could feel the tension rolling off me, but he didn't push. He simply placed a hand on my knee as he slid into the driver's seat. Do you want to block them? He asked casually, as if he were talking about a minor inconvenience. I exhaled sharply, staring at my phone.
Not yet.
I wanted to hear what they had to say. I wanted to watch them squirm. So I hit play on my father's first voicemail. His voice came through, calm and collected, but beneath it, I could hear the strain, the desperation. Sophia, you've made your point. You were upset.
We understand that now.
But you need to be reasonable. Family is family after all. Call us back. I scoffed. Nathaniel smirked. That didn't take long. They're already pretending they didn't just treat you like garbage. I hit play on the second voicemail. This time, my mother's voice was quivering. Sweetheart, please. Don't do this. Don't let outside influences ruin our relationship. We were only trying to help you see reality. I laughed coldly. Outside influences? Nathaniel raised a brow. That's me, isn't it? You are a very bad influence, Mr. Carter. I teased. He grinned. And proud of it, I leaned back into the plush leather seat, my decision already made. Let them beg. Let them cry. I wasn't going back. By the next morning, the situation had escalated. My mother, in a last-ditch effort to save face, tried to flip the narrative. She called a family friend who just happened to be a gossip columnist. Within hours, articles started circulating online. Wealthy heiress Sophia Langford abandons family after meeting billionaire boyfriend. Spoiled heiress rejects family that raised her. Is she after Carter's fortune? They tried to make me look like the villain. And they failed. Because Nathaniel had connections. That afternoon, an article written by one of the most powerful business publications in the country surfaced, exposing the truth. Sophia Langford, the heiress who walked away from wealth and built her own empire in secret. I read the headline 3 times, shocked. Nathaniel, what is this? I asked, staring at the article on my phone. He smirked, completely unfazed. I might have made a few calls last night. I skimmed the article, my heart racing. It detailed everything. How I had secretly been working on a business of my own for years. How I had built an investment firm under an alias to avoid my family's influence. How I was now worth millions on my own, without their money. The article destroyed my family's attempt to frame me as a gold digger. And the best part? By the time they saw it, it was too late.
My phone rang.
I glanced at the screen.
Mom.
I answered. How could you do this to us? Her voice was hysterical. How could I do this? I repeated, laughing bitterly. You tried to make me look like a greedy, ungrateful brat. And when the truth came out, you're mad at me? You made us look like monsters, she shrieked. You did that on your own. Silence. Then, my father's voice came through, low and seething. You think this is over, Sophia? He hissed. You think walking away erases everything we've done for you? I smiled.
Come.
Untouchable.
No, Dad.
It erases everything you've done to me. I hung up, and for the first time in my life, I felt nothing but peace. A few weeks later, Nathaniel and I attended a high-profile gala. And guess who showed up, uninvited? My family. They weren't there to celebrate. They were there to salvage what was left of their reputation. But they made one fatal mistake. They approached Nathaniel. My mother, dressed in her most elegant gown, smiled sweetly at him, as if she hadn't spent years degrading me. Nathaniel, darling, she cooed. We've always wanted the best for Sophia. I'm sure you understand that we only pushed her because we love her. Nathaniel tilted his head, unimpressed. Love her, he echoed. That's interesting. Because I've seen firsthand what love looks like. And what you did. That wasn't it. My father's jaw tightened. Listen here, Carter. We're not enemies. In fact, if you wanted to, we could work together, our families, we could build something great. And that was the moment Nathaniel finished them off. He chuckled.
Cold.
Lethal. Mr. Langford, he said, stepping closer, I don't work with people I don't respect. And you are nothing to me. Then, right in front of every powerful person in the room, Nathaniel turned his back on them. I turned with him. And that was it. The night my family realized they had lost me forever. Weeks later, I received one last letter from my parents. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't love. It was a final attempt to manipulate me. If you ever come to your senses, you know where to find us. I smiled.
Soft.
Unbothered.
Free.
I tossed the letter into the fireplace and watched the flames consume it. Because I wasn't coming back. I had finally walked away from the family that never deserved me. And for the first time in my life, I had won.